Hey everybody, come on in, come on in. It's time for Coffee with Scott Adams. Best part of the day, every time. I'm wearing my comfort blanket today because there's no news anymore. Have you noticed? There's a big news desert, but I'm going to make news. I'm going to turn nothing into something, almost like magic. That's why you're here. And if you would like to enjoy today's live stream more than normal, all you need is a cup, a mug, or a glass, a tankard, chalice, or stein, a canteen, jug, or flask, or vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like me some coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the dopamine hit of the day, thing that makes everything better. It will fortify your experience. It's called coffee, or a beverage. And it happens now with the simultaneous sip. Go. Yeah. I feel that goodness going to every part of my body. And so do you. The biggest issue in the country, I would say, is schools reopening, wouldn't you? Because if the schools reopen, then a lot of parents who couldn't maybe work because they got to watch the kids get to go back to work. The economy starts working, but of course there's a big impact, we think, on infections. Probably will go up if schools reopen. Anything that creates more contact probably increases infections. So it's the biggest decision in the country. And who gets to make this decision? Well, turns out that the teachers' unions have the most power because they can simply say, hey, our teachers are not going to go back to school. And then what do? Right? So it's really not up to the country as a whole. It's not up to the government. It's actually up to the teachers' unions. So the teachers' unions are in charge, for all practical purposes, on the most important question in the country, for the governance and health of the future of the United States. The teachers' unions get to make this decision, apparently. Now, can you imagine a worse system than to pick some people who, by the nature of a union, their job is to protect their members, even if it costs other people a little bit of whatever. Their intention, their point, the entire purpose is to do what's good for the union. Do they do that? Well, they might, right? If I'm going to be fair, the teachers' unions probably do a great job of doing what a union is supposed to do. Get good benefits and good treatment for your teachers. Unfortunately, that pits them on the opposite side from the rest of the public. Because the public, be they Republican or be they Democrat, seem to want schools to reopen. But the teachers' unions are the obstacle. Now, can we use this issue to unify? Democrats? Hello? Democrats, Republicans? Is there somebody out there who, for political reasons, thinks schools shouldn't open up pretty quickly? Safely, of course, but quickly? I think we've got finally an issue we can unify on. The teachers' unions are the biggest source of systemic racism because they're the ones who keep competition away from the school system. And without competition, people in bad schools, typically people of color, are going to be in a bad situation, and they're going to stay that way because they don't have a school system that can move people out of a bad situation. So finally, now that Trump is sort of less important to the news cycle, can we finally agree on something? That the teachers' unions are the source of all of our problems? Let me give you the good news. In the past just few months, support for school alternatives has gone way up. I think it's like a 10-point increase in the polls. So we went from a place pre-pandemic where people were kind of sort of okay with the current school system, even though it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a high issue in people's minds, I don't think. It didn't seem like it anyway. But now, because of the teachers' unions and the coronavirus and school closing, now it's a big issue. And you're seeing quite a bit of good persuasion toward states that are starting to move legislatively toward funding kids instead of schools. Now, I understand the way that works, and I'll take a fact check on this if I have this wrong, is that the idea is currently the state will give money for schooling to a school. And they'll say, well, you've got X many kids there, so we'll give you this much funding. Then if the kid wanted to go somewhere else, well, he'd have to pay for it himself, or the family would, because the funding stayed with the school. But there are now 17 states that have either already passed or are working on legislation that would say that wherever the kid goes, that's where the funding goes. So if the kid can find another accredited school, could be private or religious, whatever it is, that the funding would be transferred over to that school, and then you have a competitive situation. What would be the downside of doing that? I can't think of one. It feels like there's no downside. It feels like it's an obvious good idea. Because competition makes everything better. When you don't have it, you have all bad things every time. It's not like sometimes it works. Can you think of the one time that having no competition worked? I can't. You can't think of one example of that where a lack of competition works in the long run. It's not even a thing, and yet that's the system we have. But now many states are getting on board. It's becoming a thing. Corey DeAngelis, especially, he's doing a great job of making sure people understand the issue, which I didn't quite understand. I'm just starting to get up to speed on it. But here's the good news. If this coronavirus turns out to be the final straw that breaks the teachers' unions' control of our schools, the teachers' unions and the teachers who are, brainwashing our kids to make them unproductive citizens, in my opinion, that's exactly what's happening. Teachers are brainwashing kids to make them less productive citizens. I'll say it directly. That's exactly what's happening. So they are the enemy, the teachers' unions. They're the enemy of every person in this country who's not a teacher. They are the enemy. They're not on your side, and they're not supposed to be. And that's okay. All right? The whole point of a union is that they're fighting for their own rights. They're not fighting for your rights. The union isn't fighting for your children. They're not fighting for your family. They're fighting for themselves, and should. Nothing wrong with that. But as long as they're fighting for themselves, fuck them. Fuck them, right? They can fight for themselves. They have every right to do that. I respect it. But fuck them. You can fight for your right too. And do you know what your right is? To lobby your government, get them to change the funding so that the teachers' unions cannot control your kid. Fuck them. They're the enemy. They're the enemy of the country. They just do a good job for their members. And that's something you can respect. But they are your enemy, unless you're a teacher. So don't get that wrong. They're your enemy. They're destroying the fucking country right in front of you by destroying your fucking children's lives right in front of you, and you're fucking letting them do it. They're the enemy. They're not on your side. They're the fucking enemy. I guess I made my point there. So don't let them fortify your kids, is what I'm saying. If what comes out of this is breaking the teachers' unions and some kind of school choice, it will be one of the greatest things that ever happened in this country. It will be one of the greatest things that ever happened in this country. Because China is going to destroy the United States if our teachers' unions continue to be in charge of the next generation. China will kill us. Literally kill us. They will control space. They'll have better education. Their economies will surge. Ours will not. We're dead. Your teachers' unions will fucking kill you because they're making the country uncompetitive with a country that will kill you. Because China will fucking kill you. Not maybe with bombs, but they have no trouble pushing fentanyl and viruses and God knows what in our direction. So they will fucking kill you if the teachers' unions have their way. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the dopamine hit of the day, thing that makes everything better. And it happens now with the Simultaneous Clip. Go.